list out the countries and the amount of people who died. UK, 457. I mean, I know that he has continuous beef with NATO, but at some point we have to say, okay, a line has been crossed, and we're talking about young men and women who died and sacrificed themselves when they didn't have to for this country.
What I genuinely enjoy when going head to head with MAGA voices is that you don't even have to invent an argument. You can simply use their own words against them. Their contradictions expose the hypocrisy and the complete lack of shame in real time. In this clip, you're going to see Lathan, Abby Phillip, when the CNN panel dismantle the MAGA talking points surrounding Donald Trump's deeply offensive comments about NATO allies and the real sacrifices they made after 9/11. As always, we're going to watch the clip in full. I'll break things down as we go, add my thoughts along the way, and circle back with final reflections toward the end. Let's get into it.
All right, next for us, allies are livid at Donald Trump tonight, not over Greenland, but his claim that NATO troops avoided the front lines in Afghanistan. Even Prince Harry is calling him out for it. We'll debate next. President Trump is angering America's allies over new comments he made, once again undermining NATO.
I've always said, will they be there if we ever needed them? And that's really the ultimate test. And I'm not sure of that. We've never needed them. We have never really asked anything of them. You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines.
Now, in the wake of 9/11, the United States became the first and so far the only NATO member to invoke Article 5. The alliance sent thousands of troops to help the United States fight its war in Afghanistan. And Trump's remarks have outraged lawmakers across the political spectrum, as well as veterans and families of those who gave their lives. Tonight, Prince Harry, who served in Afghanistan, also pushed back, writing in part, quote, "Thousands of lives were changed forever. Those sacrifices deserve to be spoken about truthfully and with respect, as we all remain united and loyal to the defense of diplomacy and peace." President Trump, he's the president, but he seems to not have very much grasp of recent history or not so recent history. But in this case, it is astoundingly disrespectful to our allies to suggest that they did nothing when they actually did quite a lot.
Well, I think we can do two things here. I mean, we could and should acknowledge when our allies have been there for us, and they have been there for us. But there's nothing wrong with holding our allies accountable, which I think is part of what the president's been doing, particularly with Europe, where we've seen they have moved closer into the arms of China, where we have seen them become more and more reliant on Vladimir Putin for their energy needs. And for years, they've been saying they were going to step up and put more money into their own defense and national security, and they didn't do it. And it took President Trump coming in to get them to do it. So I can kind of understand some of the frustrations that he brings forward.
What that got to do with him lying?
Lying?
He lied. He said that they didn't. He said that they didn't help out. They helped. He said that they haven't been there for all. Let's say everything you just said is true.
I started my statement by saying I think we could and should acknowledge when our allies are there.
I know. All right, but then So that's the first part. This is what I like. So the first part is and then the second part is where you launder. The second part of your sentence, you launder what he said as if there's some universe which it's saying in, and it's not. There's no.
I didn't launder anything. I stated facts.
You laundered it because
all
you were
three
like,
things that I said were facts.
President Trump, he came out and he said something that's demonstrably untrue. But let me tell you why it's not that bad in the grand scheme of things. He's the president of the United States. The stuff that he says matters. We should care as an American community whether or not he's saying things that are true, and whether or not he's saying things that our reputation benefits from. And he's not doing that. He's acting crazy.
Particularly harmful when it's statements that undercut the sacrifice that a lot of these families made. And it was great to see Senator Tom Tillis list out the countries and the amount of people who died. UK, 457. I mean, I know that he has continuous beef with NATO, but at some point we have to say, okay, a line has been crossed, and we're talking about young men and women who died and sacrificed themselves when they didn't have to for this country.
Let me just play what one of those families said, a family who lost or whose child sustained serious injuries in Afghanistan.
It's disgraceful, it's disrespectful, it's hurtful. These are the rantings of a child. This is somebody who is deflecting from other things that he said and it's not acceptable in a supposed leader of the free world.
It is, to Van's point, not even remotely in the same universe of things for Trump to have complaints about whether NATO is, committing enough to their defense, or whether or not they are too close to China, maybe they're taking Russian oil. It's not in the same universe as him then using falsehoods to essentially smear people who sacrificed their lives for us, Americans.
Yeah, they died. People died, and they were on the front lines. And so you're right, he did lie. And I wish more Republicans would come out and speak out against him. The crazy thing about this is the second time I have seen a clip in the last sort of 5 days from an ally or from someone essentially saying that Donald Trump is acting like a child. We saw this in Greenland, where he admitted that because he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, that's why he was upset about Greenland and wanted to, at every turn, he is embarrassing us on the world stage, and it is embarrassing that he is now being called a child.
Let's put up
And I want to say this clearly, as someone watching from the outside. Please understand how this looks. You can feel it everywhere. You hear it in conversations, you see it in the headlines, you notice it in everyday places, cafes, newspapers, public discourse. Right now, the United States is being viewed with a quiet side eye, and that's genuinely sad, because everyone knows there are still a few years left in this presidency. But whoever comes next, hopefully a Democrat, is going to inherit a massive task. Rebuilding the trust America once had with the rest of the world won't be easy. A tremendous amount of work still needs to be done.
Put up real quick the penguin meme, because I think this speaks to what you're talking about. There is a kind of acceptance of a dumbing down of not just politics, but I mean, this is like foreign policy. He's walking, it's a meme, right? He stole a meme from somebody else. It's AI generated. There are no penguins on Greenland. There are no penguins in the Northern Hemisphere.
Unfortunate.
It's not even funny. It's just embarrassing at a certain point. When are we going to get back to a serious White House?
Well, look, I disagree with the president's comments, basically diminishing Europe's aid. And I'm super grateful for every veteran. And we should never pretend that they didn't sacrifice their lives, because that is such an important contribution. But I think a couple things we saw at Davos this week, I think Americans, just generally, if I can kind of talk about how the MAGA base feels about this, they feel like we've contributed over the years, and we have, 22 trillion to NATO. And they look at Europe and they kind of feel like we're the older sibling who's spending for everyone's defense. And meanwhile, people in Europe are living La Dolce Vita. They're taking August off. And we're basically kind of bankrolling their lifestyle. And they have all these fabulous social benefits. Well, we can't buy houses, and we don't have paid maternity leave, and we don't have all these things in the U.S. And so I think that's what he was trying to communicate. And obviously, that was not done in a great way. But the other piece
those are choices that we make in the United States.
What you guys
could certainly have paid maternity leave.
We got common ground. You guys are saying that if Europe plays the NATO bill, then we're going to get European-style universal health care. You guys are down?
I'm not commenting on healthcare. I'm saying,
because you said they got all these.
I didn't hear her say that.
I'm just saying, you're talking about what they got. Because I'm down for it.
I'm saying, how does the average American feel when people in France are living La Dolce Vita,
all right, guys,
and we're bankrolling their lifestyle?
Right. Next for us.
And just like that, the pattern repeats. Once again, the hypocrisy on display becomes impossible to ignore. She tried to frame it as a gotcha aimed at those of us here in Europe. And to be fair, Europe absolutely has its own issues. I see them clearly, especially here in the UK. But the moment Van Lathan flipped her argument back onto itself, the entire narrative collapsed. Her point was essentially, Europe gets things like universal health care and strong social programs. Fine. If that's the argument, then let's own it. Those outcomes are the result of political choices that a US president could pursue if they actually wanted to. But that's not Donald Trump's agenda, so using that framing as a defense makes no sense. What followed was the familiar scramble, the hesitation, the backtracking, the sudden denial of words that were just spoken moments earlier. That's what makes this so revealing. When pushed even slightly, the argument falls apart because it was never rooted in good faith to begin with. It's about defending a position at all costs, even if it means contradicting yourself in real time. And that's why I keep saying this. Being MAGA, being Republican, Being a hardline conservative right now has turned into a kind of public self-humiliation. The defense of the indefensible has become the entire exercise, and no one is going to convince me otherwise. This exchange says it all. Van Lathan made strong, grounded points, and once again, right-leaning commentators tied themselves in knots trying to justify statements that simply don't hold up. Call it what it is. Let me know what you thought about this clip and the arguments made here. Drop your thoughts in the comments, give the video a thumbs up if you found it useful, and I'll see you in the next one.